You're listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 119. Have you ever felt pressure to launch your product or service ASAP, perhaps before you feel it's truly ready? On today's episode, we hear what it's like launching a product during a worldwide pandemic, and not just any product, one that has become essential and in high demand. If that's not pressure, I don't know what is. So let's tune in to hear how she stayed true to her vision. Hey there, I'm your host, Jessica Fergon, and I am passionate about doing the inner work needed to reach your goals. Let me be your guide as we navigate all the fears and insecurities that surface when it's time to step outside of your comfort zone. Along with my knowledgeable guests and industry experts, I'm here to teach you how to reawaken your life purpose and passion and create the steps to turn your intentions into action. Ultimately, my goal is to empower you to rise above those blocks holding you back and start living a life that you are worthy and deserving of. So come on, it's time to slow down, find a comfy spot with your favorite organic tea, and get inspired. Thank you for tuning in to the Love Unplugged podcast. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by the lovely Amy Welsman, founder of PAUME, that offers hand sanitizers that are designed to nourish our hands as much as protect them. We all know how harsh hand sanitizers can be, especially during this time when we are using them so often throughout the day. So it's refreshing to have a brand that provides a nourishing formula. So welcome, Amy. I am just so honored to have you as my guest. I'm so excited to learn all about your story and your advice. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit more about you personally.
Well, thanks. First of all, I want to say thank you, Jessica, for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here. And I'll give a little quick summary of who I am. I'm a 34-year-old woman living in Toronto, born and raised here. And I have a husband and a 2-year-old daughter. She's turning 2 in a couple weeks. And I'm a sort of serial entrepreneur, I guess you could call me. And this is my first sort of solo real venture. And I'm really excited to talk about it in more detail with you.
I can't wait to dive in. Now, for your kid's birthday, it's COVID, so obviously it's very challenging right now, but do you have anything planned? Are you going to be doing anything special?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, I haven't really had time to think too much about it. It is the first week of April, so, I have a good, 5 or 6 weeks to plan, but I think it's going to be very low key and likely socially distanced, and probably just the immediate family. And then maybe my parents will meet in a park or something, but most likely, weather permitting, of course, we'll do hopefully something outside, but we'll see. Better than last year. Last year, we really were on full lockdown, and it was in a condo, and we were just the three of us. So we'll see.
We'll still be full of love. So that's all that really matters.
Yeah, tell her that.
She'll love it. All right, so let's get into the business. What were you doing prior to PAUME?
Well, I started my career in advertising. So when I left university, I went to Queen's. I started at JWT in Toronto, and I worked on actually the Johnson & Johnson business for just over 3 years. So I really got to learn sort of the ins and outs of a big packaged goods company and consumer goods company. So that was a really great experience. And toward the end of that 3-year period, I met this girl named Joanna Griffiths, who had this really great idea for this underwear brand. She wanted to create more functional and fashionable undergarments for women in various sizes. And it was called Knix Wear at the time. It's now called Knix, but she basically convinced me to join her company as her first full-time hire. And I just fell in love with the idea and was, completely inspired by her and left to join her company. So I sort of took this big risk at a very young age. I was in my early 20s and decided to just, jump right in the deep end and start a business from the ground up with her. So I learned obviously a ton on how to bring a brand to market. Obviously things have changed a lot with, as far as marketing approaches over the last I think it's been 7 years. But, as far as the nuts and bolts of it, I learned so, so much with her. And I spent 4 years building that business with her at Nix in a supportive role. And then after 4 years at Nix, I started to sort of feel that I wanted to start my own business at some point. And I was looking for maybe to broaden my experiences beyond women's underwear, do some consulting, and just sort of take a moment to think about what my next move would be. And I left Knixwear and did precisely that. So I worked with Shopify and did a series for them on how to build a wholesale channel, because that was sort of my specialty where I ended up at Nix. And did a whole sort of like online series on that. And then I did some consulting work. And then it wasn't until I had my daughter in 2019, early 2019, April, as we're approaching. And at that point, hand sanitizer, the idea for this sort of came to me, through a series of circumstances, which I can certainly get into. But that's sort of the backstory to where I was before launching this business.
That's crazy. You're with Johnson & Johnson. So that's like a very big corporate career type thing. And then moving to like a startup.
Yeah.
That is very different worlds, right? Like, how was that transition for you? How did you feel kind of moving and shifting into a completely different world?
Well, I mean, it was so new and refreshing and energizing at the time. All the excitement build up in launching a new brand and being involved in all the touch points and all the elements. It was such a great learning experience, and I really soaked it up. And I learned so much from Joanna as well, who was our leader. Yeah, it was a totally huge shift, but one that I really embraced and really loved. And it's funny, I think once you're sort of in that environment, you don't want to go back. The idea of going back to corporate it just seems so foreign to me. I think I can't really imagine that. So, you make that change, and it's obviously a big risk and a big leap, but it can really pay off, especially when the brand's successful. And in our case, Nix has been one of Canada's, big success stories. So being a part of that journey and a part of that story, it was, huge for me professionally and also personally.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they are so well known. So congratulations for being part of that whole story and being a part of the success that it is now, right? Like that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So hand sanitizer, like how did you land on, like when you think of hand sanitizers, you think of like the stuff that's in the drugstore and you just kind of pick it up and go. So how did you like get to the point of you're like, I'm going to create a hand sanitizer that's actually very beautiful?
Yeah, well, thank you. I would say, so the idea started to come to me in those first actually few weeks of motherhood. I think a lot of new moms can relate when you bring your newborn baby home from the hospital, your awareness of germs and just like generally the things in the outside world that could harm your infant just become so top of mind. And I went from being someone who actually did use hand sanitizer pretty regularly. I traveled a lot for work, so I'd use it on airplanes. I used it throughout the day. I always sort of had one in my car as I was on the go, to suddenly really thinking about it, wanting to have it in my house so that when guests would come over, I could offer it to them before they held the baby. Even myself, maybe not having the energy to get up and go wash my hands in the sink, just to have it on hand to know that I was always clean and germ-free when around my baby. And I have these sort of hazy memories of being exhausted and looking around my house and seeing these ugly sort of clear bottles of clear gel sanitizer around my house. And it was through that experience that made me really, really think about the product category. And I was seeing in other categories in personal care, like deodorant and razors and all of these products, that we're seeing a real revolution in the marketplace. And, from sustainable packaging to like unique, healthy, clean formulas and all of those things. And then hand sanitizer just hadn't really changed. I mean, I think there was at the time maybe one, maybe two brands that were trying to do something different. But generally speaking, it was this utilitarian, as you said, product that you buy at the drugstore that's not particularly pleasant to use, kind of smells harsh. It's packaged unsustainably in like these sort of single-use plastics. And that's sort of when the little light bulb came on in my brain. And that was back in early 2019. So this is before the pandemic. And, in those first 6 months of motherhood, I was pretty focused on her. But the idea just kept mulling in my head. And I wrote some notes down and I put together sort of a plan for what it would look like. And I had a very clear vision from the start that it was going to be sustainable. It was going to have a refill component, and that I wanted to design something actually really nice, and combine. I always thought, like, why shouldn't something that we're using pretty frequently not be a pleasant experience? Like, why not take a necessary action like using a hand sanitizer and turning it into like sort of an indulgence, and combining the aesthetic of beauty products into a category that's typically drugstore utilitarian. So making that combination, and that's sort of how PAUME was born.
That's incredible. I love it. All right. So I want to get into the process of creating your business now. So
Yeah.
we know how the light bulb moment came up, which was awesome, but let's break it down. So what came first in starting your actual business? Like, was it just knowing that you're going to offer hand sanitizers? Did you poll your community to see, like, is this something that they wanted? Did they want certain, like, different scents or like different packaging or like different things that they were looking for?
Honestly, at the time when I I did a bit of, very loose chit chat with girlfriends but generally speaking, I kind of kept my cards close to my chest. My husband knew about it, and I was sort of tinkering away. As I said, I was pretty distracted, I would say, in those first 6 months of having my daughter. And it really wasn't until the pandemic hit that really gave me that push. I thought, okay, there's like a sign here that I need to do this. If this isn't a sign, then I don't know what is. And suddenly this like product that went from being like something we don't really think about too much. It's available, we all use it, but it's not something top of mind, to becoming like the most consumed product and in-demand product of 2020. That's really what gave me that push. So I would say it was in April of last year. The first thing I did was incorporate and get my name trademarked. And that was, a bit of a creative process to get there. And I always knew that the name was something, related to hands. And I love the French language. I love I love languages in general. And I was looking at different ways and doing a lot of research. And anyway, we landed on PAUME. And I wanted it to be like a simple one-word name. And it looks really beautiful as like a typeface. I'm like a font lover and a design. I love design. I love graphic design. And anyway, it seemed to sort of be perfect. And so we incorporated, I trademarked the name, and I just started to sort of really flesh out all those ideas that I'd had early on and create a real sort of proposal or business plan. And I knew at the time too that I'd have to raise money to get it off the ground. And I knew nothing. I mean, coming from the world of intimates, it was a total departure again. But, sort of harken back to my days in advertising when I was working with Johnson & Johnson, and, sort of like there were definitely learnings there that I was able to incorporate into this. But generally speaking, I knew nothing. I didn't even know that alcohol sanitizer was considered like an over-the-counter drug by the FDA and Health Canada. Like, I didn't know anything about regulatory. Oh yeah, so it's an alcohol-based product, so we have to get a specific regulatory approvals to sell it into the marketplace, just like with most cosmetics, but in particular because of alcohol, it's considered a drug. So I had no idea. That's just one of millions of things I didn't know. So the first thing I needed to do was find a formulator, ideally in Canada, which I ended up finding. I wanted to start sourcing packaging. I was doing so many things at once, just trying to figure out what the big picture was and what was required to get the business off the ground from a financial standpoint as well. So I spent, really 3 to 4 months just like Googling a ton, calling people, having as many conversations as I could, learning as much as I could. And then it wasn't really until midsummer where I had a very clear idea of the path to market, what I needed to source. I had some partners that I had engaged with, to get the brand together, the look and feel, all of those things that are so important, and those foundational things. I cannot stress the importance of like building that brand foundation, really knowing like what your mission is, the language, the look, the intention, and the feeling you want to invoke. So, I had been working on that. And this was like really top prime COVID time. I mean, it has been since, but, and I went out and had to raise some money virtually. I did a sort of like virtual road show, if you want to call it that, and use Zoom. And pitched the idea to probably like 20 potential investors. And I think most of them came on board. I believe like maybe
Wow.
15 or 16 out of 20 I ended up bringing on board in this sort of like friends and family round. And I ended up raising 270,000 Canadian. And also at that point, bringing in, building a team of really good advisors. That's something I really learned from Nick's, where, Joanna had people that she really turn to for advice and guidance. And it's just so important, I think, when you're launching something to have those people that you can call upon, especially when you can't afford to hire a whole team of experts. Um, so I was managed to recruit some really incredible entrepreneurs. Joanna's one of them. And then I have a few others, but they're all just so invaluable and specialists in their fields, and in many cases, like very successful entrepreneurs. So I've had this very great sort of group of people I can turn to in these early days. But that was sort of the life cycle, or the cycle rather, to getting the money and then building that team. And then I needed to hire some consultants. I know I couldn't hire anyone full time, but I wanted to hire a team of real experts that I could pay. If I could afford to pay them for a quarter of their time, it was more valuable than, not having them. So I had to sort of figure out what that team was going to look like. And that was the next few months. And then by the fall, we had developed our formula with this lab out in British Columbia. I had a really, again, clear vision for what I wanted the formula to be. I did not want this to be a nicely packaged regular sanitizer that we all know. I really wanted the formula to be innovative and unique. And they nailed it. I mean, I think the scent too was something that was really important to me as well. I really wanted it to smell good. So we worked together to develop the formula. And I can touch on that in more detail later, but that was sort of the life, the path to launch, and then obviously ordering all the different elements of packaging that were required, which was actually quite complicated too, because we wanted to source sustainable packaging, previously recycled plastics, all of those things. It required, extra work and attention, and it wasn't as simple as just sourcing. Anyone can source a plastic bottle. It's very easy. But finding bottles that are made with previously recycled materials, sourcing packaging that's biodegradable or recyclable or recycled it can be, it's tough. It's extra work. So that took quite a while to finalize all of those little pieces.
Holy crap. I mean, that's a lot. You've been doing a lot.
It's been a year. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, you jumped into this brand new world, even though you did have experience launching a very successful business alongside Joanna. This was very different. Now you're on your own. You're doing a product that you've never really worked with before. And I would love to know what you struggled with most in your business. Like, was it the confidence to pitch to those 20 individuals to get funding? Was it, always just being in the unknown and in the uncomfortable zone, trying to piece all these things together? Like, what did you struggle with the most?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it was probably just the unknown. As I said, I really knew nothing, and I was learning everything on the fly. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So it was often through like little hiccups and, little roadblocks where I learned these lessons. And I think when you're first in it and you're first in such unknown territory, everything phases you. You reach a little hiccup and it's like, it's really hard not to feel really discouraged all the time. Like, oh, it's the end of the world and okay. And I would say that the biggest learning since then has just been how to cope with these kind of challenges, because with launching a business, any type of product, any type of business, you're going to have these challenges and you're going to face lots of roadblocks. It's just the reality. And learning how to cope with them and be able to, take a breath, think about what the problem is, and then reset and figure out a solution. And that's a learned skill. It's not something that, everyone has, embedded in their DNA. It's definitely something that you learn as you go through it. So in those first early days, that was always tough. There were a lot of doors closing and a lot of, oh, I can't do that. Okay, now I have to go back to the drawing board. And so that was definitely discouraging. But, I think what kept me going forward and energized was that I really did believe in the idea, and I still do. Obviously, the marketplace has changed so much, and we can touch on that later on. It's obviously there's so many brands now trying to do something different and be innovative in this particular product category. So I still think we're standing out in many ways. But,
Mhm.
at the time when I first had this idea, I was up against, your drugstore brand. And I knew that like whatever I would do was going to be probably better um,
Yep.
or, at least interesting to the consumers out there. But now it's like quite a crowded space. Um, so I would say like that can be discouraging too, as you're seeing people around you like launch products or seeing established businesses and brands launching their own version or their own products can be hard when you're trying to get to market quickly. But that was always the challenge for us. It's like we wanted to get to market fast because there was an opportunity that we had to seize. But at the same time, we really wanted to be thoughtful about everything along the way, and doing a custom formula, for example, added 6 months onto our timeline. We could very easily have gone to a manufacturer that had an existing formula that had been approved by regulatory. They exist, they're everywhere. I could have just grabbed it and slapped my label on it. But I always knew from day one that I really wanted to do something custom. So that takes time, right? It's like it's product development, it's lab time, it's regulatory approvals, it's all of those things, product testing. So it's a long journey, but obviously worth it in the end. But I think that was always challenging. But I was very confident in the idea, and I was passionate about it. So that kept me going, and I knew that we would get there eventually. Just you had to persevere, and that's definitely learnings from previous entrepreneurial experiences, right? It's like you just have to power through,
Mhm.
and eventually it will happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about the bounce back rate, right? Like everybody's gonna fail. There's always gonna be unknowns. There's always so many freaking hiccups in business, right? Like it's ridiculous. But all
Yeah.
that truly matters is picking yourself back up again and continuing to go, and how fast you do that.
And learning, I think, and learning from that previous hiccup, there
Mhm.
are certain things now that I'm so much more knowledgeable and smart, really smarter than
Mhm.
I was way back in those early days. So that gives me hope too. It's like, okay, well, we learned that lesson, we got through it, and now we're moving on, and we won't make that mistake again, or we'll always know the lesson. So that's comforting. Just waiting for the next one. Just waiting for the next big hiccup to hit me. But anyway.
And then that gives you kind of like a trail to look back on and be like, I got through all of that. So anything else that comes up, I know I can get through it because I've gotten to where I am today, and I've had hiccups in the past and I still moved on from them. Like it gives you proof.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what was your biggest win so far?
Well, I would say so back in October when we had first received our like first batch of go to market samples. I think I had like 20 bottles, and I was supposed to distribute them. We had a couple ideas for PR, but also I was thinking about who I'd want to align myself with from a retail perspective. I always knew this would be a direct to consumer brand that I would sell on my website. But, I learned at Nix too, it is important, especially in those early days, to have wholesale partners to give you that legitimacy. And I sort of aimed really high and thought that Indigo would be a really great partner for a product like this. They're really investing in new and innovative brands, and they're giving a lot of shelf space to brands that maybe you wouldn't typically see at a lot of stores. And their merchandising has always been so great, and they seem to just be sort of a leader in retail in general in Canada. So I managed to get a connection to the head of buying, the lifestyle buying there, and sent off a sample from my coveted 20 bottle batch. And she emailed me almost immediately after trying it and saying how much she loved it and that she wanted to have a call. And we were able to then, you know, continue the conversation. And now we have an official partnership with Indigo. We're just launching actually this couple weeks ago. We launched in all of I shouldn't say all, I think about 60 stores across Canada and on their website. And I think that was a huge validating moment. I think it's to have someone who's buying for such a big operation and probably tries hundreds of products every week, to have her say like, wow, this is really cool and this is really different, and we want to take a chance on you, is a pretty rewarding thing. So I would say that was our first big win as a brand, was aligning ourselves with a retailer like that. And there have been lots of wins since. I mean, for every win, there's lots of disappointments, but it makes those wins even sweeter, because you can't win them all. But for us, like when I look back on the last 6 months, I'm pretty proud of what we've accomplished so far, especially having barely any product in the marketplace. We only just got our travel bottles before Christmas, and then we only a couple weeks ago did we start shipping our kits and our in-home pump and our refill bags. So we're so new, and we've been able to sort of build this momentum without a lot of product. So now that we have it, I'm particularly excited to sort of really get going, because we're ready now.
Oh, I can't. I'm going to go check out Indigo. I didn't know that your stuff was in the store, so I'm going to go check it out and see if I can get myself a bottle.
Yes, please do. Please, everyone.
Yes, please, everyone go out and get this amazing product, because I haven't tried the actual product itself, but the look of it is fantastic. So I'm sure that it feels so good on your hands.
Yeah, I think that's like the main piece of feedback, is everyone is like, oh, it's so beautiful, so it must be great. And I love hearing that, because I think that's obviously the first thing you need to catch people with. You need to be able to catch their eye and make them want to know more. But what's actually inside is what I'm probably most proud of. Our formula, as I said, took months to develop. And a lot of love and care went into it. And I really, really believe that it's different, and it's really high quality. And we're starting to get, actually, now that we've been shipping more product, we're starting to get more customer reviews on our website. And just the feedback from people has been so overwhelmingly positive. We so far only have 5-star reviews, and people are really noticing and remarking on the quality of the formula, the smell, the feel on your hands. It's not sticky. It has a bit of cloudiness because it has this nourishing plant-based emollient in it that's often used in skincare, and it really makes your hands feel good. And it's nourishing and it's effective. And I think the scent too, everyone's really excited by the scent. We worked really hard on it. It's I would call it our signature scent. And it combines 5 essential oils, rosemary, lavender, orange, cedar, and lemon. And it's just like, it's pretty divine. So it's funny. Actually, the best feedback I've gotten, I think I had like 1 or 2 people say, at least 1 or 2, say that they just like put it on throughout the day because it smells so good. Like they'll be at their desk and they may not have even left their desk, but they just put it on for a little refresher. So, when people are saying that, that like it smells good, if people are purposely putting on hand sanitizer when they don't really have to.
I love that you used essential oils for the scent. I use essential oils every day. So the fact that yours are scented with those, I'm just loving this product even more now.
Good. Yeah, no, we wanted to use all natural fragrances. In fact, the whole formula was intended to be as natural as we possibly could make it. So obviously there has to be a thickening agent when you're combining alcohol with these other ingredients. But beyond that, which again is like not a chemical, it's just, you can't claim it as natural, quote unquote. But all of our emollients, our fragrance, and then our additional added ingredients are all plant-based. And that was really important to us. We wanted to keep it as clean as possible.
Amazing. So what exactly was that process like, formulating this product? Like, was there a lot of back and forth testing? Like, how did you figure out what scents you wanted to use without giving away, obviously, all your secrets?
Well, I'd had a couple products that had inspired me. I've always been a huge fan of Aesop and Le Labo, and I just feel like they've done such an amazing job at creating these incredible scents. So I wanted to sort of be inspired and by those brands when approaching this formula. I wanted it to smell really good. So I definitely used those brands as examples when we did the brief. So you brief the lab, your lab partner and the chemists, and you say like, these are sort of the main things that I want to achieve with this formula. And scent was definitely top of mind. And I said, we're talking like, I want like the best quality essential oils, and really we got to mask that alcohol scent, and what was the best combination to mask the alcohol. And it was a real sort of back and forth, but this is obviously their specialty, so the lab had some recommendations. And then when it came to the emollients, I said, I really want I want to have like a unique hero ingredient that no other brand is using. So let's explore those options. And ideally, I want it to be plant-based and sustainably produced. So they found my ingredient, Hydresia, and it's perfect. It was so great with the formula, and it blended well with the alcohol. And it was sort of like they nailed it right out of the gate, to be honest. There wasn't a lot of back and forth. I got a couple samples with a few different iterations, few different like versions of the formula, and we picked one. And honestly, like, I think we had one more round of revisions after that, and we were good to go, which, especially knowing that I couldn't go in person and meet with these people, it was all done virtually. That was such a blessing because, the reality was we were doing this all remotely. So, the fact that they had nailed it so quickly was really great.
That's amazing. All right, so let's shift a little bit back to the business side of it. Now, you are a one woman team right now doing all of this. And just thinking back through everything that we just talked about, that's a lot of work. You've had to do a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to figure out, or I'd like to figure out exactly how you stay consistent and you just focus on the tasks that are actually going to continue to move yourself forward, how you stay organized with everything and stay on top of it all. Like, what is your secret?
Well, oh God. Well, first of all, I can't say that I do everything well. So that's number one. I also want to say that as much as I don't have a permanent team, I do have a couple consultants that I'm working with who are amazing. And without them, I would really not be here. And PAUME would not be what it is without them. I had a brand and packaging designer who I sort of call upon throughout, here and there, but she really helped build that foundation for the brand with together with me. And then I have someone who does all my production, more my operations rather. So she's getting stuff from A to B and dealing with that stuff, which is, that's a full-time job. She amazingly does it in less time, but it's so much involved in just getting stuff made and getting it here is can be a real headache. And then I have someone who helps me with my social media who's been amazing since day one. So I can't say that I'm fully alone, but as far as like getting all the pieces together and working with all these different people, and I have some people on the marketing side too that help me as well. So it's a lot, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And balancing that with a 2-year-old at home, it's been intense, but I'm a pretty efficient, I would say, like I'm a natural born anti-procrastinator. Which is very good because my husband is the opposite. And it's funny because I'm definitely, when there's a task at hand, I like need to get it done immediately in order to like cope. So it's a lot of just working in the evenings, working while she naps. When we have childcare, obviously, I'm grateful for that and I can work throughout the day, but it's not full time. And it's, I use a lot of, I have a lot of sticky notes. I have a whiteboard. My bedroom is my office, which is not the best and healthiest thing, I think, for your well-being, because I go to bed and I like look at the wall and I can see my whiteboard. It's pretty terrible, actually. But I don't have a choice because we don't have a lot of space right now. So it is what it is. But I definitely try to stay organized by just, lots of lists, lots of reminders, lots of calendar reminders. And the reality is, even with that, things get missed all the time. And, often I rely on other people to remind me of things or to follow up. I always tell people, like, you're not bothering me when you follow up with me. You're really not. You're doing me a favor because, if I haven't responded, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just that you've just been lost in my inbox and I can't find you again. So yeah, I guess that's my secret, quote unquote. It's really just flying by the seat of my pants, quite honestly.
So you don't have anybody like dedicated, like a team member. So you have all these individuals that are supporting you in different areas, but
Mhm.
at what point do you feel like you would be ready to bring someone on full time and start building out your team?
Well, hopefully soon. I mean, as I said, we've just really just launched in the last few weeks formally. If you really want
Wow.
to talk about like product in market shipping orders, it's only been the last few weeks. So, we're still so young. We've had a lot of wins. We've been really lucky. We've had great press. The product is speaking for itself, which is totally thrilling. But, we're still early days and we're just not yet in a financial situation to be able to afford a team. But I'm thinking we'll be there soon. And yeah, I'm hoping by the spring, summer, I'll be able to make at least one hire, but hopefully two. I will say too, that working with consultants, I mean, for example, like my social media person, she is remote. She's not full time. She has other clients, but she does such an incredible job. And I'm not feeling like I'm missing out by not having her full time. So there's certainly roles I think that can be done virtually. And I think especially in this world that we're living in now and launching a business in this climate has been a big learning for me too, because I actually have never met in person anyone who works with
Wow.
me.
That's such a
It's like
change, right?
when you let that sink in, it's like, wait, what? Like how? Never met in person. So these are all relationships I've built, over the phone and over Zoom. And it's actually surprisingly, and I think a lot of businesses are learning this, is like people working remotely is not always a bad thing. And yes, there are definitely days where I wish I could just get everyone in a room and we could like have a breakfast and all just chat and brainstorm. And I think that is so valuable. And I can't wait till the day that I have a team like that, working every day and fully dedicated. But in the meantime, this isn't such a bad alternative. And there are definitely things that get missed and like mistakes happen. People are working with lots of clients. Like it's hard, I imagine, for them to keep on top of everything. But, so far everyone's just been so amazing. And it'll be once we make that move, we'll be really ready to make that move. And it'll be a change, but not necessarily for the better. It's just like it will evolve as the business evolves. But right now, it's working pretty well.
It sounds like you've created like the perfect structure for you and what you need right now.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I always wish I had more help, but yeah, no, I think like it's really served us well in these first few months, and time will tell. I think the next 3 months are going to be really critical. We have lots going on, lots of marketing levers we're going to pull, and as we grow and scale, like I think it will become obvious at a certain point that I need a full-time person on whatever that area is. But for now, yeah, we'll just ride it out and see.
Amazing. So that leads me into my next question without giving away that anything that you aren't ready to talk about just yet. Is there anything that you can share that is on the horizon for Palm?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been doing a lot of thinking about the brand, the future of the brand, and what I want to create. I think when I went into this, obviously, hand sanitizer was the sole focus. Going to market, sort of doing that like single SKU launch. But then, always in the back of my mind, I always knew that I had to think about where this brand was going to go, because having one SKU, especially once the pandemic does subside, and this product, I think is going to maintain its relevancy, certainly in
Mhm.
our culture and in our lifestyle and our habits. I think we're all much more aware of how diseases spread. And I was joking too with someone the other day. It's like, I feel like I've been spoiled this year in the sense that I mean, I haven't been sick at all because we've been so careful about our habits and our hygiene. And I don't want to have another winter where I am getting colds all the time and flus. And,
Mhm.
I'm really enjoyed this, like so far, knock wood, like sick free season. So I think a lot of people are feeling that way and wanting to continue a lot of these habits we've adopted. So I don't think it's going away, but I think I would be naive to think that it's going to have the same relevancy 100% in our lives for the next 50 years. So I want to think about what else we can do, and I think I've sort of landed on Palm as a hand care brand, focusing on hands as like our main priority. And that could include, and we're in development on a few different products. One area I'm really interested is antimicrobial wipes, wipes that smell good but also feel good and are biodegradable. hand creams that have like, again, everything would have a sustainable packaged element as well as sort of like thoughtful ingredients, plant-based as much as possible for our other products. So lots of fun things coming down the pipeline for sure. And sanitizer is not, the only product. I sort of hope that in a few years from now, or maybe sooner than that, we can have a sort of suite of hand care products that are all thoughtfully packaged and thoughtfully formulated. And I think that category is a little, I wouldn't say it's untapped, but I don't think there are a lot of brands really trying to own hand care. And quite frankly, like, our hands are such an important part of our body and often ignored. I think like we beat up our hands a little bit. We use them to to do everything. But also they're like our expression. It's how we express ourselves and how we communicate, and touch and physical touch, which I think we've all been so lacking in this past year, has become so important. And hands are sort of our main like conduit. So I think we should take care of them. And I think I'm excited to create some products that will help us do that in a more sustainable and healthy way.
I love that. And I can't wait to see everything that you're about to create. That's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited.
Right, so if anybody wants to learn more about you, where can they connect with you? Where can they get your products? So I know that you sell them in Indigo. Are they going to be available anywhere else? They're available online.
So in Canada, Indigo would be your best bet. We do sell online, mypaume.com or mypaume.ca in Canada. Either way, if you're Canadian, you'll get bumped there. And it'll sort of take you through the brand story and what we're all about and the details of our ingredients and our packaging. So it gives you a real education. And we also sell everything. We do refill bundles. Essentially, you like buy one of our starter kits. We have 3. And you then you can either purchase bundles of refills, or we're actually launching a subscription program as well in the next few weeks. So lots of easy and convenient ways to buy the product. And then in Indigo on shelf, if you want to go take a look at it, see it in person, which I know is important for a lot of people. So it's there. It's likely in all of, as I said, I think it's in about 60 stores. So probably in more of the major, like the bigger markets, but most stores will have it. And I think that's, and on Instagram, we've building this like really vibrant, fun community on Instagram. It's at mypaume, and please follow us. And I think we're creating a really cool community and putting out a lot of beautiful content that's sort of related to all the things that our brand stands for. So there's content around like human connection and touch, but also around interior design and design in general, and clean beauty and all those good things. So I encourage you all to check it out. And I think that's it.
It's a beautiful Instagram feed. I definitely can attest to that. Looking at it right now, it's very beautiful.
Thanks.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for taking the time to join us today and for sharing your journey creating this incredibly needed company right now, especially during a difficult time like this worldwide pandemic. I can't even begin to fathom how that has been like for you, but you've done an amazing job. I know so many people are going to enjoy hearing your story today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.